What's up everyone, Slasher Movie Reviews here, and we've come to the end of the line on our 2016 wrap-up, and it's a time to officially count down the top 10 best movies of 2016. Now look, I will admit, 2016, it didn't have a good start. It definitely did not have a good start, but I like to believe from the months of October to December were so strong that making this top 10 list actually ended up being a lot more difficult than I personally imagined. So, of course, before we begin, I want to shout out a few honorable mentions that I think are excellent films. They are just not in my personal top 10 best, but if you haven't seen them, you gotta check them out. Swiss Army Man, Midnight Special, Lion, Pete's Dragon, and The Nice Guys. Starting my list off at number 10, I have ELLE. This movie is a French psychological thriller that is literally driven by one of the strongest female characters I've seen in quite some time. And the performance by Isabelle is one for the ages in my opinion. She is dynamic and she brings so many different dynamics to her character. She's fierce, you love her in one scene and hate her in the other, but regardless, you can't take your eyes off the screen while watching her. She is incredible in this movie, I feel like. And the story about a woman getting raped and getting caught in this sort of cat and mouse sort of game with the rapist is just, it's as intense as it is actually darkly funny. And this movie just blew me away, ladies and gentlemen. Coming in at number 9, I have Manchester by the Sea. This movie's able to shift around between really dark and funny moments to, life actually always sucks moments really effortlessly. I mean, some of the funniest scenes of this movie are in some of the most gut-wrenching and polarizing scenes in this movie. And I mean, this movie is a drama, and it's a really heavy drama that feels extremely real. The characters have so many, layers going on underneath them, even if they can't fully express it verbally because of the horrors that they've endured. I mean, this movie was grueling and depressing, but it really took me on a ride, and I just found Casey Affleck's performance to just be truly exceptional. Coming in at number 8, I have Moonlight. Now, I know some of you guys will be upset because this movie is so low on my top 10 list, but ladies and gentlemen, it's on my top 10 list. I can't give you an answer that you probably want to hear as to why I like this movie less than the other movies to come, but I just do, ladies and gentlemen. But regardless of the matter, I think this is a very important film that looks at what masculinity really is like underneath the surface, and not what our poisonous world defines masculinity. I think if anyone is a man, they should certainly watch this movie, even if they don't define themselves as homosexual. They should definitely see this movie because the turmoils that the characters in this film go through feel extremely real, and I think it's a movie that couldn't have come out at a more perfect time and will forever be as timeless as it is important. Number 7 is The Handmaiden, and I had the beautiful opportunity of seeing this movie with the director himself in the theater, and ladies and gentlemen, Chan-wook Park, he is one horny dude, man. Let me tell you, this is an erotic, romantic thriller that really blew me away. I mean, it's like close to 3 hours long, but you really get absorbed in this film through his direction and its sort of fast kinetic energy, and the romance and the twisted nature of the story and the direction that the story takes you in is so unpredictable and engaging and entertaining. And I just love this movie, and I love the ride that it took me on. I love the characters and the sex scene. Ladies and gentlemen, this has one of the most memorable sex scenes I've ever seen in my life. Number 6 is A Monster Calls. This movie wrecked me, you guys. It is so important. I really resonated with Connor and the story and the emotional turmoil he goes in. I think by the end of this movie, not only do you understand Connor's, situation, but you generally feel like you are Connor, that you've been where he's been, or maybe you're at where he's at. And it just is a very timeless and important tale that blends fantasy elements and this beautiful watercolor animations so beautifully. And yes, I will admit I'm a bit biased since it's based off of a book by my favorite author, but I still think this is a very gut-wrenching film that really takes its subject matter to the heart and makes it, honestly, another movie as timeless as it is important. Coming in at number 5 is Sing Street. Ladies and gentlemen, this movie had me toe-tapping and carrying the biggest grin on my face. It had wonderful, catchy musical numbers. It had beautiful heart, and I just adored this film. I can watch it anytime and just be thoroughly entertained by it. I love the ending. I love the charm. I loved the characters of this film. It just really blew me away and just kind of like swept me off my feet. And Drive It Like You Stole It, I can listen to that song on repeat. Coming in at number 4, I have Jackie. This is a biopic about Jackie Kennedy and the moments of her husband's assassination and the days that followed afterwards. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is an amazing movie. There's not a shot in this movie that you cannot gush over at how beautiful it is, and it's all anchored by a phenomenal performance from Natalie Portman. As a matter of fact, you don't see Natalie Portman when you watch this movie. You only see Jackie Kennedy. And I found that this movie was exquisitely shot. It has some amazing monologues in this movie that just really speak to the heart and speak about one's legacy and one's importance in life and what we carry on in our lives, and you know what gets us through the next day, that I found just extremely powerful. Coming in at number 3, I have Silence, that comes from Martin Scorsese, and in my opinion, this film offers some of his finest work today, and that says a lot about a director who's had so many great hits upon his health, and I was generally blown away by this movie. I honestly wish more movies stunned me and challenged me the way that this movie did. This was an endurance of faith that really looks at faith and Christianity in a really powerful light. Now, I've stated on this channel that I am a believer. I follow the Christian faith, but I don't feel like you have to be a Christian to really get this film, because we all suffer from doubts and our own morality and choices in life, and this movie examines that fully, and it puts you on display, and you find yourself asking questions about you in this situation, and how honestly I felt like I feel privileged to be able to live a life where I didn't have to endure these type of persecutions. It's a hard movie to watch. It is graphic, but it's not gratuitous. We endure this because we must endure this. And I found that this movie was extremely powerful. It is beautifully shot, and it just really spoke to my life, and it just kind of shows the power that a movie can have on you and how it can speak to you internally long after the movie's over. I really love the journey that Silence put me on. Coming in at number 2, I have Arrival. Look, there are movies that define your story beyond your life. Like the day I saw Arrival. When I walked out of the theater, I felt like we as human beings don't deserve this movie. Like, we don't deserve it. What this movie accomplishes, and its messages, and its themes, and its story that it puts you on, I feel like we don't deserve it. This is one of the most human and in-touch alien invasion films I've ever seen. This really got under my skin and spoke to me in such a profound way, and I ugly cry every time I've watched this movie at the last 20 minutes. And while I might be pouring my heart out in my body weight, I can't help but feel like my body is like going through this sort of reboot, this sort of like reset of my body and mind in such a profound and beautiful way. And ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the finish line. My favorite movie of 2016 is La La Land. This is a masterpiece of pure cinematic bliss. I didn't know so much joy could just be crammed into a movie, but ladies and gentlemen, we don't get movies like this anymore. And when a movie like this comes around, we just have to grab it by a hold. And this movie has so much to say, and so much heart, and so much joy about dreams, and the obstacles, and the endurance that we go through to have these dreams, but oh man, the joy of having them, and what we might have to sacrifice in order to obtain them. This movie spoke to me. I loved and adored this movie. I've seen it 8 times in the theaters, ladies and gentlemen. It's beautifully shot. The musical numbers, oh my god, the musical numbers dazzle and delight. I can't stop listening to the soundtrack, to the score, and I generally think the epilogue in this movie is like the best thing of 2016. So there you have it, you guys. Those were my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. Let me know in the comment section below what 10 films you loved in 2016. And of course, on the screen you'll find other great videos that you can check out. And until next time, I'm the Slash Movier, and you guys have just been slashed.